A couple of the beading groups I'm in often turns onto the discussion of how does one organize all the various beads and wires that there are out there. I have been, I've been a beader for a very long time. I do it as a hobby. I really enjoy it. And but sometimes I think I enjoy collecting the beads almost as much as I do using them in a creation. And oftentimes when my creativity is kind of in a bit of a slump, I find that's usually a good time to go through and start organizing what I have again. So I figured what I would do is just share a couple of the things that I've found useful over the years. And I've tried a lot of different things, and I think I finally settled on something that works. So one of the favorite things I like, particularly for stock beads, where I end up buying a lot of the same thing just to have because they're good staple beads, is these things that you can get out of really out of any home improvement section in a Home Depot or even on Amazon. Are these drawers. You can get them in groups of 60, or some bigger drawers where you get, I think, like maybe 36 to a tower. These I liked in particular because they let me break them up into 4 different sections, which is great for some of the smaller beads. From what I understand, drawers like this are a little harder to come by now, and a lot of them have switched over to where you can only split the drawer once right down the middle and you get 2 big sections, which is still good, but again, a lot of people liked it because you could split it up multiple ways and fit more into one particular unit. So these I ended up finding were really good because for some of my tiny beads, I ended up getting the smaller versions of the craft bag and putting them in here. And then what I would do is I would just kind of take these mini paper clips and clip them together, like beads together, like colors. And these drawers let me split them down 2 ways, right down the middle. And it let me get more items in. And so what I ended up doing for smaller beads or things where, you know, maybe I had a mix of beads and I only had 3 of a kind or 5 and 7 of a kind, I'd sort them out. I tend to like to do necklaces where I have 3 as a centerpiece, or 5s and 7s give me a chance to have a couple odd number of centerpieces, and then still have a matching pair if I wanted to do a pair of earrings to match. I've also got them broken up into smooth rounds and faceted rounds, things where I have more of the same type, but they're smaller beads than what I keep in my towers. You know, it makes use of the space better. If I were to put beads this small into one of the drawers here, it's wasted space. And I have them set up that way for a number of years, but as I acquired more beads, I needed to rethink how I stored them. When I first began beading, I had a lot of these boxes, and it got to the point where I almost had too many of them, and I'd have like maybe 6 or 8 out in order to figure out what I was going to do for a project. It took up a lot of space. I'm back to quite a few of these, but now I use them differently. While I do use them to split up my my silver, gold, and copper beads, because I don't have as many of those and I want to just keep the metals together, I also use them for a lot of my findings. So I have one of these trays for silver and another one for the gold. And then I actually have one separated that is just for nickel free, because I have some people that I make stuff for that have nickel allergies. So I wanted to set up a box that had nickel free in both gold and silver. So that way I knew it was safe to use. For all of my various wire and cording and stretch cording and stringing material, I really like using the Ziploc bags in either sandwich bag size or, for the bigger stuff, freezer bag size. It lets me group things together that are similar, but then I can also put the whole thing into a bigger Tupperware bin, which makes it easier to stack. I just label the bin stringing material, even though there might be a bunch of different types of stringing material in there, and then I'm able to stack it and keep it out of the way until I need to get at it. Because I could be, you know, once I decide what I'm stringing something on, it could be a while before I actually need to access anything like that again as I'm working on the project. And I like using these 3-drawer units for holding on to most of my seed beads. It's just the most efficient way. I had kept seed beads in trays like this and also in bins like this, and it just was not efficient. At least here I can just pull out a drawer and I've got size 11s and 8s and 6s all sort of grouped together depending on what I need. And then for my tools, I've gotten this Stuff It bin a couple years ago. It's absolutely fabulous. Tons of pockets, holds everything I could possibly want in here. A bunch of mandrels and things like that. Scissors and pliers and all the tools I can lift. You know, has a great handle on it. Again, I can keep it out on the desk, or I can just easily move it off to somewhere else. The desk itself is, I have, I can't really zoom out, but I've basically got 3 of these towers and a couple of 3-drawer things. This is a little over a 6-foot long desk and probably about 4 feet wide. So, and I don't have particularly high ceilings, so I tend to go for maximizing as much vertical space as I can, and I've even got some storage underneath where I keep these things. You know, I tend to just use as much space as possible, and make the most of little space that I have in a lot of different things. I try not to, despite what you see, I just try not to spend a whole lot on storage, particularly out of craft departments, because they can be a little bit overpriced. That's why I've really kind of gone to, I think this particular unit I had gotten out of Home Depot, and then these I had gotten off of Amazon for the best prices possible. And the little baggies I get that I've been using, I get in Walmart, and these came from a variety of places, and I wait till there's a 50% off sale, because I would really much rather put money into beading, but storage and organization is a necessary evil in order for the creative process to continue, because if you don't know what you have and where you have it, you really don't know what you can make. That is my workshop. I spent a couple months in the spring just doing nothing but organizing and rebagging stuff, because as I had gone through some of my stuff, including some of my staples, I ended up where I would have only a few left over of a certain kind, and they would just get bagged up and moved into one of these drawers to make room. And as I went through, it was kind of like Christmas, because I would find things I didn't remember I had, and all of a sudden I would get new ideas of what to do with them. So for anybody that's kind of in a creator's block, sometimes there's nothing better than just sitting down and organizing to kind of get those creative juices flowing. So happy crafting. Bye.